Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the NFL Recap Show, Playoff Edition. Today we will break down the madness of Week 18 and how that has affected the playoff bracket. We have also created a pigskin playoff pick'em on ESPN, where the winner will win free merch for the Nick Rodriguez podcast. Group name is NRP Giveaway, so be sure to join so you have a chance to rep our latest gear. But before we do that, Charles, how you doing today? And welcome to episode 3. How you doing?
Yeah, happy New Year, brother. I'm things are going great, man. NFL season has been crazy. Nice national championship last night. Congrats to Georgia. Your state over here getting it done. So two championships for Atlanta, Georgia this year. So that's big time, man. But life's good, man. How are you doing?
Everything's good. Can't complain. Phenomenal championship game last night. But we're here to talk NFL football. So quick recap of Week 18. We're going to start with Colts Jags. What were your takeaways from Colts Jags?
Yeah, obviously this is shocking, but we saw some statistics that the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville at that current stadium in recent years. For a number of reasons. But it was just a game that when it was about midway through, you didn't realize that it was actually possible that could happen. Like you start off first quarter being like, oh, Colts are going to brush up. I mean, Jonathan Taylor played well. It was a lot of analysts said it today that it was Carson Wentz's shoulders. That's what the loss really reigns on, unfortunately. And Frank Reich this morning did not commit to him for 2022 as starting quarterback, but he didn't commit to any position, to be fair. But it's just really interesting. It's a shocker. What'd you think, man?
Nuts. I mean, the Colts had 2 opportunities completely squandered to make the playoffs. They lose to the Raiders the week prior. They lose to a 2-win Jaguars team. I mean, hats off to the Jaguars to continue to play, and they got their butts kicked. I mean, it wasn't like a cheap flag here, there. Yeah. No, they got beat down, and like you said, the stat I think is now 7 in a row that they've lost to the Jags. And there's been a few good Jags teams, but way better Colts teams. So absolutely shocking to see the Colts not in the playoffs. But another incredibly wild, shocking game. Chargers, Raiders, everything on the line. Pittsburgh has, they had an interest in that game as well. What were your takeaways from this incredible Sunday night football game?
That is candidate of game of the year. I know a lot of people were saying that it was definitively game of the year, but there were so many great Monday night, Sunday night games this year, all the way starting at week 1, some revolving the Raiders and Ravens. That's why we liked Ravens early on. But the Raiders and Chargers were pretty evenly matched, especially with Raiders back at full strength. But you love to see that with the entire story of their season. Derek Carr getting it done, and just the Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert, much more can you ask for from him? I mean, he played unbelievable. Like 3 4th-down conversions on that final drive, game-winning overtime sending touchdown at the end of regulation. And it could have ended in a tie, man. So that's a decision that Chargers head coach is going to be thinking about for a very, very long time. But, kudos to the Raiders for getting in that last spot. But there was also another big game that we talked about, you alluded to before, Ravens-Steelers. What were your thoughts on that?
Game of the week, right? Offensive juggernaut, right? Well, not exactly. I mean, what more can you say about Big Ben? I mean, the guy just I think it's similar to him in the pocket, just never goes down. We thought they were dead in the water, had no chance of sniffing the playoffs, and here they are taking care of business, beating although beat up Ravens team in Baltimore. They wanted to send Big Ben home with the loss, and they had a lot on the line as well. But wow, down to the wire, Big Ben somehow gets it done, and here they are. We thought a few weeks ago they wouldn't have a chance, and here they are in the playoffs, going to play Kansas City.
You, me, and everybody else, man. I mean, we've talked a lot about Big Ben on the show and not necessarily positively. So kudos to him.
Exactly.
Making us not, I wouldn't say eat our words, but it's obviously to make the playoffs is the goal. They had a very strong team, TJ Watt for Defensive Player of the Year, but I mean, Big Ben is the leader at the helm, so congrats to them.
In other news, we saw some coaches get fired this past week. I don't think you disagree with. The most shocking was Brian Flores, and you actually had a great segment here of, instead of just talking about every single coach that got fired, like the Mike Zimmers of the world, who we kind of saw on the horizon, you said, let's just focus on the one that was the most shocking, which is Flores. And we said, what team who's going to lose their coach would have the best fit and have the best season in their first year? So who would be the best fit for Flores?
Yeah. So I thought this was an interesting question because I wanted to talk about the one coach that was guaranteed to have a job next year. Like there's a lot of these coaches that we saw coming for weeks, months. I mean, for some people, they were calling for their heads for years. So I thought Flores was shocking because Dolphins only had a double-digit winning season one time in like 10 years prior to Flores taking over the helm and getting it twice. So I think the team that would actually benefit from him the most is the Vikings. We see Dalvin Cook, top 3 running back. We see Justin Jefferson, just an electric receiver. Also with Adam Thielen, they have some pieces on defense. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. Pretty mediocre most of the time, but can pop off and be a real leader, maybe in the right environment. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes in recent years in terms of interceptions. So I think that with the talent they have, that's a really intriguing spot for Flores.
We're not going too far away from each other. I'm going over here to Chicago with the Bears, who also lost their coach. We were kind of texting each other, and I was going to say half of the NFC North head coaches got fired. Matt LaFleur obviously is still there, but I mean, and Dan Campbell with the Lions. So I think the Chicago Bears, they have a lot there. You have a great quarterback, similar to your situation with the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. So you got Justin Fields. You have a really good defense, and you have some pieces to work with. I think Flores can get it done there in Chicago. A tough division. I think the Lions are on the rise. Even the Vikings with the right hire is on the rise. But completely shocked that Flores is out of Minnesota. But let me ask you this. If you were not necessarily a coach on the hot seat or something like that, but what could be a fit that you could see that would just make sense? I know we were kind of throwing Seattle. We don't know if Pete Carroll's gone or anything like that, but what's more of a less hot seat that Flores would also fit well at?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think that the Raiders, we forget about, they currently have an interim coach. So if they decide not to go with their interim coach, I mean, I see the Raiders as benefiting a lot as well, actually, from a Flores hire. Now, a lot of those rumors with the Dolphins being connected to Deshaun Watson were because Brian Flores was so high on him. So whatever team he goes to, maybe if there's not a definitive quarterback, I know Carr is that guy there, but if he wants to pick his own guy, is Deshaun Watson going to go wherever he goes? Deshaun Watson on the Raiders or the Vikings, I think would be incredibly appealing in terms of a successful team. I think that would be double digits wins for each of those teams.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting to see how the NFL offseason will shake out. But let's talk about what we know now. Now that the Week 18 season has wrapped up with all these crazy wild games that we just kind of talked to you about. But let's talk about our impressions of the NFL bracket. Who does that really benefit more than other teams? Because we said this before. There's a lot of really good teams in here, but it's such a matchup league, and this year feels like more than any other year. It's just going to be who you match up with, who you match up with, who's hot, the COVID protocols, and everything. Man, it's wild. But what are your first impressions of seeing the NFL playoff bracket?
Well, you look at the bracket some years, when the Patriots really were in the midst of their dynasty, or even the second-year Chiefs when they did the second-year Mahomes-led Chiefs when he was at the helm, and you just knew like, hey, this is the favorite to win it all. And now you could say the favorite could be the Packers for sure with Aaron Rodgers or whoever it might be. Yeah. But I look at this bracket and think that it is completely open. I could see multiple upsets in the first round, and especially we talked about this earlier on. But if COVID hits any of these teams, who knows what valuable guys could go down and which team stays healthy. Like I think about the Eagles, and they have been, knock on wood, a very fortunate team this year in terms of COVID and lack of injuries, which has not been the case in other years with the Eagles. They had 11 different offensive line combinations in 2020. So you look at teams that are 6 and 7 seeds, like the 49ers, that could really make a run long term. But that's what I'm thinking. What do you think? What's your first impression?
Just similar to you, but it's just going to be health and matchups. Who plays, who really comes out as a winner here. And we're going to get to our winners and losers of the bracket. But, man, it just really feels like there's not – yes, do I think the Packers can make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl? Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't. There's not a clear cut number one team in the AFC or the NFC. I know, according to some betting sites, the Chiefs, even though they're not the number one seed, they're the odds to make the Super Bowl in the AFC, and then the Packers are in the NFC. I could see it going in numerous directions. There's not many teams that you could say they couldn't make a run to the Super Bowl now that we know the bracket. And I think that makes it so exciting for every week because, like you said before we got into the show, pretty much every game that we're going to talk about and we're going to do game picks is up for grabs, right?
Yep.
Except for really Steelers Chiefs. And we've been wrong on the Steelers, so who knows? They might even make it a game.
This might be a soundbite right here, saying the only game that would. This might be motivation in the Steelers pregame after their dub. Who knows?
Mikey T, I'm talking to you, man. I'm gonna see Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl here, but yeah, I don't know. It's super exciting for Wild Card Weekend to see all these wild picks and everything like that. And I'm very much looking forward to Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I also love the breakdown of how they lay out the games as well.
Absolutely, man. So with that being said, we have first impressions of our brackets here. But who do you think is like a clear winner, clear loser of the bracket? Maybe who got the worst, short end of the stick here, and who do you feel like has an easy path?
I think I'm going to start with my loser here. They've had a phenomenal season. Great quarterback, MVP candidate. I'm going with the Bills. They get a tough draw here. Yes, they get a home game, but they have to play New England for the third time. That's a tough break. And I know that they beat them the last game, but my concern with the Buffalo Bills is that Josh Allen pretty much has to do everything. And when you have to play a guy like Bill Belichick and that great defense, I just think that's a tough draw for a guy who's getting into the playoffs. He's so great, man. I just think that's tough. And we saw, just to go back to the Georgia-Alabama game, it's hard to beat a team twice in a season.
Totally.
You saw Georgia gets the national championship. I think Buffalo can win, absolutely, being at home. But I think that's a tough draw for the Buffalo Bills. What about you? Who's your loser?
Yeah, so I think it's a really great point about rematches when you get to such a high level, because those coaches are really the key. Like maybe in high school or even college for coaches that aren't as tenured, maybe playing a team for a second time that season isn't as significant. But when you have a guy like Belichick or Saban or Kirby Smart, who's a brilliant coach and knows that they're not going to make the same mistake twice, that's a really difficult matchup for a second or third time. Like we'll talk about Bucs-Eagles rematch later on. Tom Brady saying that this might be the toughest opponent of his year. But I think that's why I think Bills might have rather seen anybody else in the first round than the Pats, to be completely honest. I could see that going the Pats' way. The loser of the bracket for me is the Steelers. I mean, I think Steelers, if you were to power rank all 14 of these playoff teams, they would probably be 14th.
Right.
And, we're talking poorly about the Steelers again, but I just don't think that they are a very good team. I think there was a few teams that were more deserving. Like I think Colts are a much better team. I think
Chargers.
Ravens a lot. Yeah, Chargers are a much better team. I think that there's a few teams that have had ups and downs, but generally might have competed better. So who knows what happens? But to have your first round against the Chiefs, who I believe could make it all the way to the Super Bowl, I think that's a real tough straw.
Yeah, and then moving over to the winner side of things, completely agree with your Pittsburgh point. I mean, great for them to get into the playoffs, but it's definitely tough to go at Kansas City and play probably a pissed off Patrick Mahomes team who did not play particularly well against the Denver Broncos. Now, they didn't have a lot to play for, really. They were already locked in the playoffs, and they already locked in a home playoff game, but didn't have a ton to play for, and that was Denver's last game. But my first winner, I have two winners. One, the Tennessee Titans, man. How about the Tennessee Titans? Doing what they did, or Vrabel doing what he did without King Henry and still claiming the number one seed, and he might come back, is absolutely huge. They were up on Houston, and Houston kind of came back towards the end. I know we were texting about that as well. I was like, man, all these games are coming down to the end right here, but phenomenal season for Tennessee. I think if you ask people each week of the season, like, no, they're going to falter. People don't seem to trust Tennessee as much. And I tend to think that's because they're in Nashville. If they were in New Jersey or Vegas or one of these big markets, people would be all over the Tennessee Titans, and I think they might even be the heavy favorite just because of the location of where they are. But Vrabel has got those guys coached up, very Belichick-like. So I think it's scary that they have a bye week, and it's great for them that they're able to take advantage of that, and they were able to take care of business against the Texans last week.
What an accomplishment it is for the Titans to lose their best player in week 9. Was it week 8 or 9?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Derrick Henry has not played half of this season. And if you were to tell me that they were going to clinch the number 1 seed at our mid-season review, I would have said that's insane. So kudos to them. And you are so right with them being a winner because they need that extra week for Derrick Henry to be fully healthy. And when he's fully healthy, he's going to get the ball 40 times in that week 2 matchup in those divisional games. But my winner of the bracket, I'm going to stick with the number 1 seed as well, is the Packers. Number 1 seed has become so important. Like when other teams in previous years were 1-2 seeds, both those teams had the first round bye. So you could be first or second. I like that they actually changed it to the 1 seed only because it's truly a strategic advantage. Yeah. So you want that number 1 seed bad. That's why the Packers, played their starters for the first half. Like they already clinched it up, but they're not going to be playing for a full week after that. Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers comes in, throws 2 tutties, in a meaningless game against the Lions. Like, good for the Lions for getting it done. I see a lot of promise in them in the future. But Packers having that extra week, especially when you have a veteran quarterback that's a little bit older, I think that bye week is a lot more helpful rather than a younger guy at the helm who might need to be playing consistently to get all those playoff looks. Aaron Rodgers has been in 25, 30 playoff games, maybe more. I'm not sure the exact number. So He can take a week off, and he only has to play, 2 games and then win the third to win the big game. I mean, it's a big advantage for him.
I'm gonna do a little on the fly winner here. My other winner was going to be the Chiefs, but you really hit on it with the Steelers. It's just the other side of the point right there. They get to play Pittsburgh, but we're not dismissing Pittsburgh. I think it's just a matchup that benefits the Chiefs. But no. I'm gonna do one a little bit differently here. I'm gonna say kudos to I'm gonna give a winner of the weekend to a winner is the Bengals and the Raiders and the NFL fans because, one, I don't think we saw the Raiders or the Bengals making the playoffs. And for them to face off, I think that's going to be glorious. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, Derek Carr, and the Raiders storylines, I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. So I'm going to say a winner is just all of us fans being able to watch that incredible game. And it might be the first game of the weekend. We get to start off with Cincinnati, Las Vegas. So I think we're a winner just because we get to see that incredible matchup.
Yeah, man. And that's actually bringing to our next segment is picking our favorite matchups. And that's actually my favorite matchup of the weekend is the Raiders-Bengals, just because I feel like these are 2 scrappy teams, one with the Bengals on the rise. And it's just these are 2 teams that are very talented, that have had ups and downs throughout the season, but have both made it in. Those 4-5 matchups are the best. They remind me a little March Madness-esque when it's like 8 versus 9 seeds, where it's like no team has a true advantage. Obviously, Bengals won their division where Raiders are getting in for the wild card, but it's going to be a really great matchup, one I'm excited to see, especially young guys. Second-year quarterbacks have a lot of success. You think about Patrick Mahomes winning Super Bowl his second year, Russell Wilson winning a Super Bowl his second year, Carson Wentz in his second year led the Eagles to an 11-2 start before he went down with his season-ending injury. But these second-year quarterbacks that are 1, 2, first round, second round picks have some pretty good history. So I'm really interested to see how far the Bengals go.
I'm excited. And I'm happy for Raiders Nation. I'm a little sad because I know if the Chargers would have won, I think it would have been Chargers versus Bills. I think it would have been so Herbert versus Josh Allen, which would have been awesome. But we have plenty of years for that. But this Bengals Raiders game is going to be awesome. It's going to be electric. I don't want people to sleep on it just because the Bengals name wise hasn't been as sexy last few years. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Derek Carr and the Raiders, that's going to be a lot of fun and explosive. But my favorite matchup is we're winding the clock a little bit back to the 90s. It's San Francisco Dallas. I mean, man, we're gonna get into our game picks here. With this game, it's really a coin toss. I think we actually disagree with this game. but the defensive line play, it being in Dallas, seeing all the Cowboys fans going crazy. San Francisco travels well. The headlines: Jimmy G, does Trey Lance get a play? Dak Prescott. To me, the Cowboys are so interesting because if you told me in a month, hey, the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can believe you. It's up to Dak. They have so many weapons on that offense. Micah Parsons on the defense is phenomenal, as we've talked about in weeks past. It's up to Dak. If he can play consistent, if he can play well, then yeah, they can make a run. If he's mediocre or if he's decent, then then they're not going to go very far. And for them to go up against a monster like San Francisco, I mean, man, that's just going to be exciting. I just can't wait to see the D line O line matchup that entire game. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. No, I disagree a little bit with the Cowboys right there. Just we'll talk about that in our game picks right there.
Yeah.
Just because I'm so high on the 49ers. But, I mean, they're
Yeah.
as talented as anyone in the league. The roster-wise, I mean, up there with most talented rosters. You could argue that they're the most talented roster.
No doubt. Let's get into it here. Let's go into our game picks. I like this because we did this without talking to each other. And there's some that we agree on, but there's some that we disagree on. So this will be great here. Let's start off with the first game, Raiders versus Bengals. Who is your pick?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. Could see it going either way, but I feel pretty confident in the Bengals. I think that, winning that division for them, first time in a while with the Bengals. Joe Burrow is a winner, and I think Jamar Chase, it's just being on that LSU squad, is used to the big moments. You see those big-time SEC players play well in games like this, even when it's their first playoff game, per se, on the big stage. So I'm taking Bengals. How about you?
I'm riding with Cincinnati as well. I like Joe Burrow and the way he's been playing, and like you said with Jamar Chase as well. Joe Mixon has been great. Interested to see how defensively they match up with one another. Raiders are going to be a tough out, but I'm going with Cincinnati in this one. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks as well. Cincinnati's a scary team, especially with Burrow at the helm. He's a superstar, however you want to classify him. So should be a great game. Don't sleep on Derek Carr. Would not be surprised at all if the Raiders pull this one off.
Yep, totally.
Let me ask you this. If the game was in Las Vegas, does that change the way you would pick the game, or would you still ride with the Bengals?
I ended up picking the Raiders over the Chargers because it was in Vegas, and I know that environment is extreme. So it probably would change my pick. But I think this is home field advantage for a team that has meaning the Bengals, who hasn't had home field advantage in a playoff game years. I don't know when the last time was they had home field advantage. They are going to travel really well for this in terms of just going to their home stadium, and they're going to be there for this game. So I think it's going to be loud. I think it's just going to be Bengals.
Game number 2 on the day, which will be Saturday night, is going to be Patriots versus Bills. Who do you got in this AFC East Classic?
I've gone back and forth on this one. I think it's going to end up being a pretty low-scoring game. I think it'll be under 40 points for the entirety of that. I think that the Patriots defense is just so good, and obviously the Bills' strength is their offense. But I do think Bills are going to get this one. Even though I think that Belichick game planned really well. They've split the series in the regular season going 1-1. I think the Bills are going to get this simply because Josh Allen is going to will them to the win. And I think that Bills have better offensive weapons. And I think they're just going to end up scoring more rather than, the defense is having a crazy battle. I just think the Bills offense is going to outperform the Patriots offense.
This is one of the harder ones to pick. It's a tough one. And kind of what we were saying before is who's a winner and loser of the bracket. I mentioned the Buffalo Bills just because they have to get a tough draw against the New England Patriots. I'm taking the Patriots. I'm taking Bill Belichick. I love the coaching staff at Buffalo. I just think Josh Allen has too much on his plate, and he does a lot. He does everything, and Billy B is going to be able to come up with some sort of game plan to be able to beat this Bills team. It's going to be tough. The weather's probably going to be terrible. It's probably going to be 6-3 final score or something like that. I mean, keep in mind the first time they beat the Bills, wasn't that wild game where they threw it only 3 times or
Yeah,
something wild like
14 to
that?
10 game. That was insane. They had a ton of
Right.
rushing yards, but Josh Allen seemed unaffected throwing in that game. So
I
that was
know.
another. So this weather is going to be poor. And
Yeah.
in this last time, Josh Allen was throwing dimes in this game last
Yeah.
time. I was very impressed. So I think that Josh will play very well. I think Bills are going to make adjustments in terms of their defense against that Patriots running attack.
I'll get us started here for our next matchup here, which is the Eagles versus Buccaneers. I can't believe this ended up happening. Uh, I'm going with the upset. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles on this one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm feeling something in the air. I'm riding with the Jalen Hurts train. I'm riding with the drama and Antonio Brown and Tom Brady. The Eagles have a great defense as well. They have a great offensive line. Um, I know. I mean, I know who you're going with as well. The hat kind of gives it away a little bit. That's why it was kind of funny that we both picked the Eagles. But the Eagles are a really good football team. I think it's going to be a great game. And I just think, the ball might bounce their way a little bit. Tampa Bay, I think, is going to get a little bit unlucky in a couple situations. And I'm going with the upset here. And I'm going to go 20 to 17. Philadelphia shocks the world and beats Tampa.
Absolutely love it, man. No, obviously I'm picking the Eagles. Go Birds. This is their story every single year. They are the underdogs. No one expects for them to do anything. In the beginning of this year, we sat on this podcast and I gave them 7 wins. I said they were going to be second to Dallas. Dallas was going to win the division. But I'm listening to analysts nationally saying 4 wins. Colin Cowherd said 4-13, last in place. People thought maybe they wouldn't win more than 2. I mean, this is a team that bonded together and changed in the second half. They started 2-5. They decided to accept the run. They used their strength of their offensive line, and they became the number 1 rushing team in football. Now, the Buccaneers are just middle tier with their run defense. They're 15th, 16th in the league, and they're battered up right now. They're missing Godwin and AB, obviously. Fournette is battered up. I don't know if he's going to be playing. Ronald Jones injured. They're going to be relying on Gronk and Evans, and they're missing their middle linebacker on the Bucs as well. So I think that this is, if I wanted to play the Buccaneers and Tom Brady at any time, this would be it. And I think that the Bucs are just going to be down so much that I think Eagles are going to win a close one too. You're right. I'm doing 24-22.
Think about the state of the Philadelphia Eagles last season going into the offseason. Is Jalen Hurts the guy? Do we trust him? They're attempting to, they're throwing away the game. And now the Eagles are, they didn't even start Jalen Hurts going into their game against Dallas because they had already locked up a playoff position.
Yeah.
Crazy. And you're totally right about the Eagles right here. It's just people were viewing the Eagles, myself included, similar to the New York Giants, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be another year or two. I still need to see a lot from Jalen Hurts. I don't know what we have here. And lo and behold, man, Hurts is a baller. And like you said, they've really turned it around. And this is a team. There's not a team that you want to play. This is a scary team. It's like, man, we got to deal with the Eagles. Even if you win, or even if the Bucs win, it's going to be a pain in the ass. They're going to wear you down, and they're going to be beat up going into that next week. So it's going to be a tough one for sure.
Eagles are playing with house money too, man. This is,
Money.
They've got 3 first-round picks this year. They've got their I think potentially quarterback of the future. I mean, just with how great of a guy, individual leader, player, game manager, winner he is. So we're playing with house money. Rest of this is gravy.
San Francisco, Dallas. Man, we talked about this one before a little bit. This one is going to be incredible. Defensive lines for both teams. Nick Bosa for the 49ers. Micah Parsons over for the Cowboys. Should be another exciting game here, but who are you rolling with in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm going back-to-back upsets here. I'm going 49ers. I think when we talk about teams that I don't think teams want to see first round because they're scrappy, I immediately think 49ers. Eagles, Raiders type, Patriots. Like nobody that won the division right there, but they are wild card teams that squeaked in and they're happy to be there. And they got in the last 2 weeks. So I think 49ers are going to get it done. I think Kittle Debo, Ayuk. I think Garoppolo is going to play a good game. All he has to do is complete, 70% of his passes, right? I'm not going to ask him to throw too many times, 20, 25 times.
Right.
Defense gets it done. And I think Cowboys I just think they're going to fold.
I'm going with the Cowboys on this one. I think truly it's going to come down to quarterback play. I mean, if obviously, right? Like if Jimmy G outplays Dak, I think the 49ers win that one. If Dak plays well, I think the Cowboys win. It's simple math for me. I think Dak's legs, I think they get it going. Him being at home. And yes, I know they beat up on Philadelphia last week, and it's not like starters were in for the Eagles in that game, but I think that still is a confidence booster for Dallas. They say, okay, look, we know that second and third stringers, but look, we still were in momentum. If we execute, I think we can still play a high level. This one's going to be intense. I mean, this one I think is the mixture of we have a lot of games that are going to be the defensive fist fight like the Patriots Bills, where they might not be more than 12 points scored in that game. Then they're gonna have offensive shows, which I think is more like Bengals Raiders. This is gonna be perfect. You're gonna have fumble recoveries for touchdowns. You're gonna have blocked field goals. You're gonna have long 80-yard touchdowns. I'm pumped for this one. It's my favorite one of the week. Am I confident in this pick? Not at all. But I'm rolling with the boys. Home field is playing big for me. If it was in San Fran, I'd probably go with the 49ers, but rolling with the boys in this one.
I can respect it, man. Could see it going that way too.
All right, and we got two more games here. Man, so many games. Steelers, Chiefs. Who do you guys, Steelers, Chiefs, in Kansas City? Does Pittsburgh and Big Ben pull the upset?
I'm going to keep this one brief. I mean, it's going to be the Chiefs. If it's the Steelers, I will be, I think, as shocked as the Jaguars beating the Colts is as shocked as I would be if the Steelers pull up the upset again. The Chiefs are my pick for who's going to come out of the AFC for Super Bowl. So I'd be very surprised. How about you?
Yeah, Chiefs, but I think it's going to be – this is not the same Chiefs team that we've seen in the past couple of seasons where they're just going to mow you down. And Pittsburgh is a smart team. The other thing is Coach Tomlin is scary. He knows how to game plan. They also are playing with house money here. It's Big Ben's last hurrah. I think they keep it close, but Kansas City pulls away at the end, kind of similar to Denver, but they pull a little bit further away. So give me the Chiefs to advance.
Yep, I agree. Now, last game, man, right here. Cardinals, Rams. Another divisional game right here. This is kind of similar vibes to me as Bills, Patriots in terms of like teams that are both talented, probably didn't want to see each other first round. I mean, these are two teams that could have been I know they're in the same division, but power ranking wise could have been 1-2 in the NFC at one point in the season. And I'm sure they have been. So who do you have?
I'm going with the Cardinals, man. I'm going with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Man, I mean, part of it is he's so electric and so exciting. I just want to see him play another team and just get advanced. But the other part too, though, is Matthew Stafford hasn't been as crisp and as polished as he needs to be these last few weeks. That does concern me. So I am going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. Sean McVay certainly scares me because he's a genius and he can come up with a million plays. Saw a stat where his loss against the Cardinals last week was his first loss when going into halftime. So probably not a great stat for me picking the Cardinals here, but I'm picking the young, scrappy bunch. I think they've been both teams have been really, really good teams this year. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. K1, I think he outplays Stafford, and that's the difference.
I mean, these are both sensational teams. Here's my logic here. I'm picking the Rams, but that's just because they have an elite individual, I think, at every single segment of their team. Talk about Aaron Donald, on the defensive line. You have Von Miller in linebackers. You have Jalen Ramsey at corner. That defense is going to be playing, I think is going to match up very well with the Cardinals, who are already very talented. I think that's a tough matchup for them. And I think Matthew Stafford has never won a playoff game, and I think he's hungry for one. We've been talking about this all year in our preseason too. Rams are going to be legit. I picked the Rams to be better than the Cardinals in the beginning, and I'm sticking with it right now. I think the Rams are going to be sending them home.
Oh man, that's exciting. I mean, I can't wait to just sit at the TV and just watch it. I like the way how it was broken down. We got 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. Plenty of time to soak it up. Plenty of time to watch all that. But before we let you go, Charles, let me ask you this: future matchups, right? Like if one team, what matchup could we see next week in the divisional round? Would you most like to see? I guess
Yeah,
based on how the bracket falls.
I'd have to do some math right now with these seedings, but I guess if the Eagles win, they do reseeding and they play the Packers the next week, wouldn't they?
I think they would, because I think them being the 7th seed, they would play the number 1 seed.
All right. Hey, Birds, Packers, our team. Ooh. I think we'd have to have a specialty edition just to go back and forth, break it all down. Who's the better quarterback, Jalen or A-Rod? I guess we'll take that for another day. But I would love the Eagles to travel to Lambeau. I think that would be fantastic.
That would be awesome. And another mini winner, I think, is the Packers, just because a lot of these great NFC teams are going to be beating up on each other, like the Cardinals, Rams. One is guaranteed out. 49ers, Cowboys, one of them is guaranteed out. So mini winner for the Packers as well. But guys, that wraps up episode 3 of our NFL Recap podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the Nick Rodriguez podcast and everything on Belly Up Sports. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. And don't forget to join our Pigskin Playoff Pick'em on ESPN for a chance to win NRP merch. Group name is NRP Giveaway. It's simple. The team with the most points at the end of the playoffs wins free merch. It's super easy. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment on who you think will win this weekend. Thanks so much.